Most people find the absence of sound deafening. This is what the designer of the anechoic chamber at Orfield Laboratories in Minneapolis, USA says. This chamber at negative 20 decibels is the quietest place on Earth. It's so quiet inside that you can not only hear your own heartbeat, but you can hear your own blood being pumped around your body and pushed through your veins. You can hear your joints crunching about as you move. Maybe some of you would hear that louder than others. Won't name anyone, but amazingly, you can even hear the high-pitched buzz of your nervous system firing. Most people who spend time in the chamber, at least initially, find it disconcerting and alarming. But you don't have to be in a negative 20 decibel chamber to experience the uneasiness of silence. Most of us, when faced with silence, will rush to fill it in, to distract ourselves. It's not just what we hear or don't hear in silence, but it's also what we feel. Many years ago, Zara and I went for a holiday in Nelson. And on the very first morning of this holiday, Zara woke me up from my sleep to let me know that she had lost something very important. Not the keys to the car, but the actual car itself. And so reluctantly, I pulled myself out of bed and we went outside, walking up and down the street, feeling quite silly trying to find our car. And you do feel silly when you've lost an 1,800 kg object. And as we're walking up and down the street, the reality of the situation slowly started to sink in for us, that our car had been stolen. And so we contacted the police and we let them know that our car was missing. And we had a friend who was with us who was helping us locate the car. And just after 2 hours of looking for our car, he messaged us saying that he was with the police and that unbelievably our car had been found. What are the chances of that? He even sent us a picture of it here. If you're wondering, it wasn't drivable. It didn't work anymore. It's hard to drive when the steering wheel's melted. But in 2013, we had all sorts of wonderful music come out. We had, it was the year of We Can't Stop by Miley Cyrus. We had Thrift Shop by Macklemore. And who can forget the musical masterpiece, the Harlem Shake, which was cruelly deprived of a Grammy, unbelievably. But I remember in 2013 being drawn to a strange song that was related to car theft. And as I heard it, it was a song that I felt was touching on something we all experience, the discomfort of silence. It was a song called Car Radio by 21 Pilots. And the lead singer, Tyler Joseph, sings about how someone stole his car radio and now when he drives, he just has to sit in silence. But he should really be grateful that he could even drive his car. Now, when I heard of this back in 2013, I thought this was a philosophical masterpiece. Looking back now, it's not exactly the case. But nonetheless, I think it's still a helpful cultural artifact in thinking about distraction today. Tyler Joseph sings this: "Sometimes quiet is violent. I find it hard to hide it. My pride is no longer inside. It's on my sleeve. My skin will scream, reminding me of who I killed inside my dream. I hate this car that I'm driving. There's no hiding for me. I'm forced to deal with what I feel. There's no distraction to mask what is real." Profound or not, 21 Pilots is picking up on a theme philosophers have wrestled with for a very long time. That in silence we are confronted with the daunting reality of ourselves. That when we stop doing and embrace this discomfort of being, we can be hesitant about what might surface. And so we often resort to desperate clutching at distraction to escape what we might feel. The philosopher and moustache enthusiast Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "We are afraid that when we are alone and quiet, something will be whispered into our ear." Silence often isn't. In fact, silence can sometimes be loud. What Nietzsche is referring to here is this feeling of confrontation within ourselves that we experience when all other inputs have been removed. These times where we're left to sit with and listen to whispers about regrets to be dealt with, hurt to be processed, anxieties to be ruminated on, choices to be made, realities to be confronted, the situations we need to replay in our minds, the sins to be confessed, the hopes to be fulfilled, the longings to be met. And all of this is happening within the diminishing of our days, which is all very obviously lovely. But do you know what else is lovely? Turning the car radio on. Or in my case, an extended true crime podcast about an unsolved triple homicide. Or picking up a book, or picking up a phone, or calling someone, or anything to avoid the discomfort of sitting with ourselves and the whispers that we might hear. Each day will present us numerous opportunities for silence, to which we are very good at instinctively squashing, perhaps even putting headphones on, before we experience what it might have to offer us. My master's thesis was on the French philosopher Blaise Pascal, who Nietzsche publicly beefed with quite a bit, but also called him the only logical Christian, which is slightly underhanded, but nice enough, I guess. And my thesis was titled, "They Behave Just As They Believe, the Role of Christian Practices in Blaise Pascal's Pensées," which I assure you is about as fun as it sounds. But I feel I've done pretty well at not bringing up Pascal constantly too much. But Pascal wrote quite a bit about distraction. And he had the central idea that distraction is really an escape from ourselves. And so often when we hear conversations about distraction today, they revolve around addiction to dopamine and algorithms, which is, of course, a very fair consideration. Or in our capitalist-fueled culture, we have the diagnosis that the problem of distraction is a problem of productivity. If only we were less distracted, then we could get even more done. But Pascal frames distraction as primarily an act of self-avoidance. He said, being unable to cure death, wretchedness, and ignorance, men have decided, in order to be happy, not to think about such things. Now, they didn't have smartphones in 17th century France. You can read that in my thesis. But they did hunt for leisure. So Pascal speaks of how people distract themselves through hunting, specifically hunting hares. And he essentially asks the question, why hunt a hare that you would not have even bought in the shops? Obviously, it's not about acquiring the final product, but the process of hunting, the chase, which acts as a drawn-out distraction to one's own reality. Pascal notes, the hare itself would not save us from thinking about death and the miseries distracting us, but hunting it does so. Pascal takes it even further. He says, all of humanity's problems stem from our inability to sit quietly in a room alone. His contention, and mine is too, is that we would benefit greatly from embracing the quiet, to resist the urge to fill in every opportunity for silence, because in the quiet we experience the reality of who we are, fallen, finite, broken, needy, and complicated people. But as we actually sit with and recognize and embrace this reality, we find something surprising, the presence of God. And not only God's presence, but his acceptance and his love and his grace and his joy. As we look at our lives for what they really are, we get to experience in a deeper way how truly loved and accepted we are. Even in the midst of our brokenness, we have not been abandoned. Divine presence has not fled. We find that we who are made from dust are also children of God. Silence doesn't need to devolve into self-loathing, but we instead get to experience our lives through God's perspective and presence. As we accept brokenness, we also find our glory. As we look at our lives straight down the barrel, we see nothing less than God's powerful love that reconfigures how we understand ourselves. We need not spend our time distracting ourselves from the broken reality of our lives that God has chosen to embrace. We need not say no to what God has said yes to. We need not avoid what God attentively attends to. And we must learn to be with the very selves that God has given everything for. Our Lamentations passage this morning plays out this interplay we find in the quiet of brokenness and of love. We hear, "My soul is bereft of peace. I have forgotten what happiness is, so I say, gone is my glory and all that I hoped for from the Lord. The thought of my affliction and my homelessness is wormwood and gall. My soul continually thinks of it and is bowed down within me. But this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I will hope in him. The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul that seeks him. It is good that one should wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord." We should not fear the quiet, because this is the place God is good to us in. And my encouragement to you all is to begin to embrace these moments of silence, to learn how to sit with yourself in the presence of God. You don't even need to carve out new space in your life for silence, although I would suggest this is a good idea as well. But as opportunities to simply be present to God and ourselves present themselves in our days, that we would all start saying yes to them all just a little bit more, to be a people that don't distract themselves from reality, because with Christ, reality is worth embracing. When we do embrace and say yes to these moments, when we choose presence over distraction, we will find our mind wandering once more. We will become distracted, even though we have chosen not to be. In these situations, we need not be filled with shame or guilt, like we're doing something wrong. One day, the priest and writer Thomas Keating was talking with a nun who was struggling with being distracted. And she said to him that she feels like she gets distracted 10,000 times each time she tries to pray. And Thomas Keating responded, "How lovely. 10,000 opportunities to return home to God." Keating is treating each moment of being distracted like a prodigal moment. Instead of feeling guilty that we have drifted away from being attentive to God's presence, we embrace the call home to enjoy the feast each time. God's constant posture to us is like that of the prodigal son's father. "Hide in my, welcome home, no guilt, no shame, just joy that you are back in his company." And I wonder if the prodigal kept running away, whether the father would prepare a feast for him each time. I think he would, and I don't think the older brother would have loved it. The call to Christ is to come home to the Father, to come home to ourselves, to accept that which we feel like we don't deserve. This is at the heart of choosing the quiet over distraction. Coming home to the presence of a loving Father who always meets us with open arms. So let's just end by spending some time in that silence, coming home to that very presence.